You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Castle After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Castle After Show.
And we are doing, Bingus we're doing, and we're doing another episode here of Castle Season 5, Episode 23, titled Human Factor. I'm your host, Bamm Ericsen, and it is my pleasure to introduce the rest of the hosts.
Yes, hi everybody, I am Paige Sullivan.
And I'm Larice Shamar.
And Samara, she's not here with us, but she'll definitely be back with us next week for Castle's season finale of Season 5. So tonight's episode was, I felt it was very intense. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it was a doozy. I kept saying it, this is like a heavy murder. It was an intense murder.
I actually like this episode because it's different from all the rest of them. It's kind of like laughter and play, but this one, it really got down to a murder this time.
What I liked about it, it had certain elements of the things that we normally see. Like whenever there's a murder that goes on, it transitions right into Castle doing something, which he was playing the remote control games.
The armor tank.
Yeah, but then there was some different elements of it as far as Castle and Beckett is concerned. Like when the murder is going, it goes continuously. There was a break in the murder where the two of them were actually at home in bed sleep, and then they get a call from Ryan, and that's not something that we normally see. The murder kind of goes until it's over, and then there's an illusion of maybe there's dinner or something, but we've never really seen that. So there were some changes in tonight's episode as far as the structure, but then there was things that were traditional. So that's what I appreciated about it.
Yeah, and also a lot of times what we'll see is there'll be like two stories intertwined. It'll be either a Castle and Beckett thing or, an Esposito thing. And this time it was kind of just the one plot. It was just the murder, and there wasn't any side stuff happening until the very end. But that was like when the murder had already concluded. And so normally when we're breaking this down, we're like really trying to figure out where to touch base, and it's hard because the story's intertwined so much. But in this one, it was really just direct, get to business for the Castle crew.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of like cute overall with Castle kind of like playing his army tank, and then, how he kind of takes the tank into the room and telling her like, yeah, I like what you have on, and she kind of comes out in her little section, like trying to figure out what to wear to work and everything. And then when they're in the bed, and she's kind of like have the tank on the bed, and with the flying remote control helicopter, and Castle just being like, "Yeah, I was trying to protect you," but at the same time, it's like the lightheartedness of that. But then overall, the murder and the case, it was real intense.
Speaking of bedroom, I thought she looked hot when she came out in her lingerie, and I noticed that they're kind of changing her up just a little bit as far as her style is concerned. Like there's sometimes where she's wearing more revealing type of outfits, now that she's in a relationship, and so I thought that was good.
But it is different because a lot of times we've seen her in bed kind of like in a baggy sweatshirt or t-shirt and shorts or sweatpants, and this time she did look really cute, and she was getting ready for work. So that was a different look for her, for sure. And she looks good as always, so.
Yeah, I think she's just hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the jacket with the leather.
I loved that jacket. She looked good.
Yeah, she is.
They really have, she's come full circle because at first she was just kind of like a cop. And now she's always been a good-looking cop. But now she's got touches of femininity in her outfit choices. A little more style.
I think it's because of the relationship with Castle, though. I think that has really have drawn her to be more of the feminine side and not just to be that tough cop.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes she still looks not dowdy, but you know when she's like wearing turtlenecks with the jacket, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, come on,
It's
girl.
New York. It's cold.
It's cold, but it's not. You know, you can still look good. Wear a scarf.
But definitely because she's in relationship with Castle, she's kind of had to judge her, you know, her fashion, her style up a little bit, make it a little more sexy.
I don't think she has to do that for Castle. I think she's feeling more confident in herself, and she's broken down all these barriers because she was a very closed-off person. And when you open up your personality, then you open up other aspects of your life too. So she's kind of, when you feel good, you look good. You know what I mean?
Do I look good?
Yeah, you look good.
All right. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that she's kind of really starting to feel her femininity, and the fact that she's not wearing sweats and sweatpants to bed. Because I'm pretty sure as a man, I wouldn't want my woman to come to bed every day with like sweats and a sweatshirt.
Not every day, but
I'd be
please.
like, baby, please.
Oh no, how much money you think she has to be buying lingerie for every night of the week? I mean, what do you wear?
No.
Exactly.
It doesn't cost that much for lingerie.
Okay, well, we're not going to talk about it because we're just going to agree to disagree on that point.
Okay, what we can agree is this murder.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The murder was intended, was the entire episode. That was really the true story. So
Yes.
let's dive into the murder.
Yes. So we have this man, Dale Tanner. We don't know him at first.
No.
And so he's kind of helping a little boy on the sidewalk, and then he gets into his car, and his car, boom, blows up. But he's eyeing this black vehicle, and he keeps checking it and, you know, seeing what's happening. And you think something's about to go down. I did
Yeah.
not see his car blowing up. I didn't see that coming at all. But
You called it.
I did.
Did
I was
you?
like, yeah, I say it's a car bomb. I said it's a bomb.
I think you did say that. I just didn't see that. I thought they were like gonna follow him or, you know, abduct him real quick and disappear like that. But whew, so that bomb went off. But by the time, and like you were saying, it kind of paralleled. Castle was playing with that machine and blowing things up in his living room.
Yeah.
And then and he says something about a bomb, and then they get the call about the car bomb. He's like, a car bomb? Like he had predicted it or something. But so they go there, and this is where it gets crazy, is because the FBI has confiscated everything, and they're not really allowed to do anything. They can't talk to witnesses. They can't have the guy's ID. They have access to basically nothing. And that made me hesitant. You know, I was kind of concerned. And I know everybody always wonders about, like, government conspiracies and things. And that's why I was like, wow, I can't believe Castle's kind of taking this on. And I was worried that they were going to say, you know, this is what the government's doing. And I was going to say, this is a really
Weird.
intense thing for them to be doing.
But I thought the way Beckett and her crew, the way they went about certain things, like, was it Esposito who had found the
Wallet.
The wallet. You know, so
It's kind of weird and random, though. How's your wallet like?
Well, when it blew up, it just flew out of the car. Like, maybe he's one of those guys, you're not supposed to sit on your wallet in the car, guys, because you'll throw off your back and your hips, and you're going to have problems later in life. So
That's
maybe,
what's wrong with me?
yeah. So he probably, maybe, I'm figuring, I mean, he did blow up, so I don't know. But maybe he took his wallet out or kept it in his jacket pocket, and just from the force of the explosion, it was tossed pretty far.
Yeah, that's kind of.
yeah, that makes sense. Now.
You know, because if it was in his butt pocket, it wouldn't make sense. But maybe if he did take it out, or, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure the writers would have an answer for us. Maybe it is my answer. I don't know. But so, yeah, so that's how we get the clues. And we're slowly, little by little, gathering clues in, you know, a unique way, because they can't go about it the normal way. But I even think it's crazy that they confiscated the car. Like, they wouldn't let them do anything.
I wasn't surprised about that, because when it's FBI, there's kind of a conflict between this. It's like the two don't like each other, and so the FBI obviously wouldn't want them to be involved in any aspect. So I would expect them to take the car, because that's where I would expect the car, but for them to find the wallets, because the explosion was so huge, that was able to lead them to be able to have their own investigation while the FBI was doing their own thing.
But normally, like, in cases like that, because the FBI do kind of have, like, more power than any, like, jurisdiction or any county cop. But for the same reasons that they continue to have their own investigation, but normally in cases the FBI have them shut down their investigation and they do their own separate investigation.
Well, because they didn't take over the investigation. They just took everything. I don't think they were saying, because I was thinking that too, but
Yeah.
I think the FBI was confiscating everything for purposes of what he knew about the FBI, and they wanted to find out more about that. They didn't care about why he was killed or how he was killed.
Yeah.
I think they just cared about what he knew. Which leads us to, you know, we met his family, and apparently he has this website called Whistleblower Anonymous, where he leaks, it's kind of like WikiLeaks, you know, he like leaks information that he shouldn't be leaking about the government or about big corporations and banks and people, and so he's not well liked, and so, you know, his wife said there's a lot of people who are after him, and I guess this recent case, he wouldn't reveal his sources, so people have been following him everywhere. And so automatically we think, okay, the government's doing this. But then so they look more into it, and I guess the bomb was already in, what we thought was already in his car, so they looked to where it was parked.
But for me, I don't know what you guys thought about this, but something triggered about the son, Sean. His whole attitude, his whole demeanor said he's gonna come back. That's gonna come back. Sean's gonna eventually come back. And I wasn't quite sure if he did it, but I knew that he would be tied into it because you felt a bitterness to him.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell if he was bitter at his father or bitter at the cops and the FBI for not leaving his dad alone.
But I thought he was more bitter at his father because his father was having an affair with his mother.
We didn't know that.
We didn't know that. But for me, I'm just saying that there just seemed
there was something about him.
There was something about him. He just felt overly bitter about that. And then once they realized that he did have something to do with it because he was friends with Omar, there was something that Castle and Beckett had asked him, in which he completely shut down, which is why they figured it was him.
Which they found out, later in the show. But so we talked to them, and his son's bitter and angry and mad at the cops, so we think. And his wife is kind of sad and saying that his work kind of did this to them, and that she never really even sees him or gets to talk to him about it. And so that leads us to this woman named Monica Lane, who works for a fracking company. So for anybody who doesn't know, fracking is kind of a new way of getting oil and fuel, and there's a lot of controversy with it. So apparently he was going to leak something about the company. So Monica's job was to, you know, get close to him, and apparently they became
too close
for comfort, and they were having an affair. But at first it seemed as though she had planted the bomb in his car, but she did not, and she's the one who then says the wife threatened to kill him when she found out about the affair. But not for a second did I think she did it.
I didn't either.
Not Monica. It was just kind of like too random where it's just like, oh yeah, we saw this lady like leaving the apartment complex on a motorcycle, and it was just like, that's it.
And then also just following the pattern of Castle, there's always...
It's too soon.
It's way too soon.
Way too soon.
We were like in 15 minutes, we had already got to Monica Lane, so we knew it wasn't her just because of the structure of the show. You know, there needed to at least be 2 or 3 more people that they investigate.
But there was also that guy that was at the crime scene, and I said, I wonder who that guy is. And I think Beckett may have asked, like, who's that?
Yeah.
And then then he comes back, and so that's when you figure he's an important person to the story, because Monica points him to the wife. It's not the wife, and then they find out a missile drone dropped this into his car because of CSU, and so that's when we're led to the military base, where we see the guy again, and the military base doesn't tell us anything. They just want to steal information. Basically.
Yeah, that was pretty slick though.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
It's kind of typical though. I mean, like, I had a lot of friends in the military. They don't tell you anything what happens within the military. It's just kind of like a whole separate entity from your life, and no matter what, it's like you can ask 100 questions and they won't never tell you anything.
Right.
I like how Castle kind of, like, Beckett was one way. She was like, she didn't really give a damn. She wanted some answers, and she played tough girl, and then Castle kind of played it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I liked the dynamics of those two, where it's like, okay, he knew that Beckett was gonna be how she was, and so Castle was trying to go a different way and just kind of let her do her thing and be respectful for what she's doing. And so it was like, you know, I guess maybe Castle figured between his way and her way, one way will work.
Yeah, but it didn't.
Yeah.
But I loved that. Oh, that's classified information. And he kept saying, oh, wait, no, that's classified information. You're not going to tell me because it's classified.
Yeah.
But we saw that guy, and I think that's the purpose of that whole scene, you know, because otherwise it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
So we see that guy again, and then he shows up in the park when they're coming after Omar. And so I'm thinking he might be the killer. I mean, why else is he involved? And I think he's with the government, you know, and so he's following them, seeing what they're doing. But he's not.
Yeah. I didn't think.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a killer at all. Okay,
I didn't think he was a killer, but I thought he was involved.
He was.
Because at that point, I was thinking it was the military who did it. And so were Beckett and Castle. And Castle was going off on these tangents about how it was going to be like a military thing where they're taking over and, you know, covering it up. And so, I don't know. I don't know if any of you at home thought about that, because I honestly, that most of the episode thought that it was a military conspiracy kind of thing, a government thing. But if you thought so as well, you can tell us on iTunes. You can go there, download our podcast. You can rate, tell us how we're doing, comment, tell a friend if they like Castle. It is coming to a close, but they can watch all of our podcasts and, you know, follow along as the season progresses, because we are closing in on the finale. So please let us know what you want to see more of. And don't forget to check out you can follow us on your iPad, your iPhone, your Android. So we're streaming now, so you can take us on the go with you.
Team Android.
Yeah.
Team iPhone.
All right. Continuing.
Yes. So we bring this guy in, and then we find out he works for the Attorney General, and his name is.
His real name was
Jared Stack. And he's the special investigator for the Attorney General. And I loved how Castle was like, I've never heard of that before. He's like, you're not supposed to hear about it. Obviously, I'm a special investigator. If you knew about me, I wouldn't be very special.
Right.
So you figure he's kind of secretive, and he probably does a lot of cover-up kind of stuff, is what it sounds like. But so this is where I was a little confused. So Beckett makes a deal, right, with the Attorney General that he will let Stack out of custody if he gives them information. But then why were we keeping the information to the FBI, but the Attorney General will now let us have it? I know they're two different things, but
I thought that was entirely weird too. And not only that, when you get a call from the boss, there isn't any negotiation.
Yeah.
I will release him.
Thank you.
I will release him under one condition, that he gives me some information.
It never happens like that.
No.
Well, in Kate Beckett's world, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
And that's why eventually she gets a job offer. I mean, I think, you know, that was part of this episode, was that they were trying to show Kate's skills and her detective work. And, you know, she doesn't care she's talking to the Attorney General, because what she cares about is this homicide.
Yeah.
And so she's not going to let this guy go unless she has, you know, motive to do it. Why would she let him go if she's not getting anything in return?
But at the same time, in the real world, that would never happen.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
We're not detectives in New York City.
Like you said, when the big boss calls, it's like everything shuts down.
It depends on your personality, though. I think everybody knows that person who you're always like, stop, don't, like, you know, or your sibling who kept talking back to your parents, like, just stop doing that. Like, I feel like that's what Kate's doing, you know. She's saying, you know, you're telling me what to do. Now I want something.
It's typical for a character.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But so we get some information out of him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he didn't give anything like spectacular.
But he didn't. But then Beckett wanted the two of them to work together. And he was like, no.
Yeah, he's like,
But at the same time, he kind of played them in a way, because the fact that he was actually looking for somebody. He was looking for.
He told them that the guy's name.
Simon Wahlberg. He was actually looking for that guy because he felt as if he had something to do with the drone bombing and everything.
Well, he did. I mean, he did have a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, allegedly, he did.
No, he did, because he created the program.
Yeah, which they thought he killed him, but at the same time, it's just basically to bring him out of hiding, to have Beckett to do the police work that she's capable of, because the precinct is great doing, like, finding people and actually finding murderers and killers. And so she did her job that she normally does. She goes after people and she finds people.
Right.
And so I think he just kind of played her in a sense just to find the guy.
Well, he says that, like, when they do find Warburg, and he's like, yeah, we have the FBI there now picking him up, you know. So she was used, but at the same time, it led her to find out, take the next steps to finding out who the person was. And I don't think that Stack saw that happening. I think Stack saw that, this guy created this program, but I don't think he thought that Stack would be the key to finding out who used the program.
Right.
Yeah, because when she actually came back and saw him, and when he said like, "Hey, the FBI is on the way to pick him up now," and she told him like he's not the killer. It's basically like it's Tanner's assistant who's the killer, which is Omar, because Wahlberg actually designed the program that he gave to Tanner
because he wanted him to release it on his site. And then there was a copy made, and so we assume it's Omar. And I said from the beginning I thought it was Omar, and I don't know why. It just seemed like he was the unlikely person. So usually that person is the murderer.
The assistant.
Yeah, and so, but I liked the whole Warburg thing. I think that's another thing that's going to play in next week. I mean, this is kind of a prediction thing, but the way Castle helped her break it down, the OCD, those books, those are from a specific shop. And those 7 books, he's recreating his bookshelf. They worked together on that, and that's something that I think is important to the show, obviously, and will play a huge part in her decision for next week, because Castle's a huge reason she solves these murders a lot of times.
Yeah.
He thinks outside the box. Yes, it's kooky, crazy, whatever, but he does.
Right, and although he may give only minimum information, the piece of information that he gives
like the key.
is
It's
the
like
key.
help solve the case.
Yeah.
We kind of skipped over it. You mentioned it at the beginning, but I did really, really enjoy that part where she scared him with the attack of the drones in his bedroom. I thought that was cute. It was funny. They're laughing. It shows that she's got a little humor in her. She might not agree with the way Castle thinks, but she's gonna toy with him a little bit.
Yeah, that is cool because she's having to accept that Castle
is Castle,
and he does what women would consider little boy things, like play video games
and fly helicopters.
And so she doesn't particularly care for that, but she's starting to adjust to that.
Yeah, she's when you love somebody or you're in a relationship, you accept the things you don't really like, or you learn to like them, or just learn to live with them. And so he annoys the crap out of her with this stuff, so she's gonna do it right back to him and scare the crap out of him in his bed, which was a very funny scene. And I like that in this episode where I kept saying it's really heavy, it's like a really intense episode. They still had that lighthearted feel to it, and then in jumped Ryan, calling. But I liked that about it. I thought it was nice.
And then Fly. And then so. Let's go just into obviously the murder.
The murder itself
was the son.
The son. So Omar didn't do it, but somebody else had access to it. It's the son. And then it all comes together. He was angry. He was mad at his dad. His dad cheated. His dad was never around.
But is that a reason to kill your father?
You know what? I think the difference is, though, his dad ruined his life. I mean, it's not just like his dad's a bad guy or his dad's not around. He doesn't have friends. He doesn't have a stable home because he has to bounce around to stay protected. What does he have?
I actually, Paige, I totally agree with you. I really felt sorry for him because it's one thing when we've seen murders in the past where because of something really silly like, I was promised this or she did this or he did this. But although he's a young adult, I felt bad for what he had to go through. Not only are you not at home, you're not with your family, then you go and cheat on your mom with some chick that you just met at the job who is supposed to do business with. And it's like if you're the husband and you're away from your family all the time, and then because you're working, and then you go and cheat. I totally felt bad for the little kid.
I felt bad for him too. And the thing is, the woman he cheated with was playing him.
That too.
You know what I mean?
That happens a lot of times.
I know, but it happens a lot, but it shouldn't. That woman, she was mad. The wife, she was mad. He leaves me here. He puts my life in danger. He puts our son's life in danger. But I stick by him. We don't have any money, and then you cheat him. I mean, it's just she's selfless and he's selfish.
But he cheated with another beautiful woman.
But I'm gonna jump on the other side.
I'm not saying it's actually a great thing that he cheated and everything, because like a lot of time when people cheat, it kind of takes the family into like a turmoil, downward spin, and I can understand why the son Sean kind of felt the way he felt, because it's really like real tragic to look at someone that you look up to really kind of like destroy your life in a certain factor.
And not only that, but boys do not like to see their mommies hurt.
No, boys don't like to see any of, like, I know my brother, like, if I cried over a boy, he would get so mad that boy made me cry. Because he's like, that's my sister. You don't make her cry.
Yeah.
And so I think especially the mommy factor, though. Definitely the mommy factor. Boys love their moms. And, you know, there's daddy's girls and then there's mommy's boys. I mean, and you could see Sean said, my mom was the glue to this family. And he broke her heart. And I think that's devastating for any kid. And it's just like, you know, when we see in a movie an ex-husband killing somebody because their wife cheated. It's the same feeling, you know. He's just hurt by what this person did. I don't think he should have killed him.
Yeah, right.
I don't think he should have attacked with a drone.
Yeah, that was a bit much.
That was a very extreme.
Yeah, I'm saying I felt his pain, but
you don't kill people.
I didn't feel it enough for you to go and kill daddy like that. So
No.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's going to deal with that guilt for the rest of his life
Yeah.
when he realizes he killed his father.
And not only that, but now the mom, she doesn't have her
a son.
husband, and now she doesn't have her son.
That
I
is
was
true.
kind of hoping, I know they said he's in college, but I was kind of hoping he was a little younger, so maybe he wouldn't be tried as an adult. But not only did he kill his dad, he took over like a military drone.
Yeah, he's
done. He's toast.
Yeah, he's
he's
for
toast.
life.
See, that's the thing
fried.
that's sad because we always have the, you know, we convict them and then it's like, what happened to that person?
Life
You know,
in
because we
prison.
feel for a lot of the murderers. It's strange that we say that, but we do kind of feel for them because a lot of them, you're like, I get it, but you can't kill people.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I guess in a sense, it's really kind of like everyday life, that activity that people have or thinking about doing. So you kind of think about like, man, it's kind of a bad situation, but you know what really happened to this person or that person, because I felt sorry for the reason why they did it.
yeah, why they went to jail, but
Well, speaking of what's going to happen to persons, let's go into the offer.
yeah.
And so Stack, he had been observing Beckett the entire episode, and he was really, when she was questioning Omar, he noticed how organized she was, how she was very silent, and how she had the pen. He was really studying her. So we obviously, we all agreed and thought that he would make the offer at the end of the episode. So we pretty much figured that. And so he was really studying her. And so then right before Castle and Beckett are getting ready to go out because the night is over, he pulls her into the office and he basically offers her the job of her life.
And it's basically to be his partner and do
Yeah.
what he does. And I think, you know, she was saying, I haven't thought 5 years down the road. And I honestly don't think she did, because her whole career was focused on avenging her mother. And this is the first season where we've really seen her take a step outside of that in a while. And so I don't think she considered where she would be in 5 years, you know?
I guess everything's still kind of like fresh, because she actually having a point in her career where she's feeling great about her career, and
she's doing great.
and the relationship with Castle, and you know, with Ryan and Esposito, everything just seemed great and content right now. And which a lot of times kind of hard to think about 5 years from now. Like, what would I be doing 5 years from now? He asked her, "What do you think you're gonna be like? Captain, lieutenant, you know, what do you want to do?" And she has no answer for it.
Yeah, do you want to, 5 years from now, do you want to be at this precinct, you know, questioning, you know, these scum buckets or whatever the term that he used, you know, investigating people? But also, she's never been asked that question. She's never been asked, what is your goals? Her goals have always been to be a cop, and she serves a purpose for what she does, you know, doing the investigation. But no one has really asked her, what are your goals? I mean, she and Castle, they've never really talked about their future. They never even talked about marriage.
Yeah.
So
They just said I love you last episode, and it was because there was a bomb. I mean, I don't know. I think my thoughts on this is, obviously for the sake of the show, I don't think she's going to accept the offer. Like I said last week, I think she'll probably go and check it out. But I didn't like in the preview how Castle said, if you take it, our relationship's over. I don't think a relationship should be that easily broken.
I think it's more of like, it's over because you have a new assignment. I won't be able to see you or spend that time with you.
Castle is a millionaire. He can travel to D.C. from New York. It's not very far.
But it might be the assignment itself of the job, where it's like everything's kind of secret, and he might not see her for an extended period of time.
yeah, Larice, I did wonder if she takes a job, will she have to go into seclusion? Will she have to change her name? Will she have to cut everyone off? Because this Stack person, he seemed very like he had no one. This was his life.
Yeah.
Right, but that's what the job is. I mean, even being a cop is her life, you know, or being a detective is her life. But I think we'll find out more about that next week. And maybe if that's the case, maybe that's why Castle said it. But if he's just saying it solely because he doesn't want her to take the job, I think that's very selfish.
I think it's selfish too.
It's very selfish.
I think that she should take the job because she should. I think she should take the job because I think it would be a good career opportunity for her. But realistically, for the show, I don't think she's going to take it. Or maybe we've already gone into 5 seasons of the structure of Castle. Will we go into a different change? Will Castle now go into a different
like outside the 12th precinct?
Yeah, outside of the precinct, just to kind of, you know, to give the show some new flavor and some new energy.
Maybe.
I think if she does take the job and Castle and Beckett do break up, that Castle basically will find someone else, and probably like 6 months later, Beckett would come back.
I don't know.
He would still be in the precinct.
Well, because the thing is, what they can do for Castle is, you know, she can leave and take this job over our summer hiatus, and when we return for fall, it's what maybe she's coming back, maybe it didn't work out.
You're
you know,
right.
that can happen. I mean, time it lapses while we're not watching.
I still think it's gonna break the relationship if she takes the job.
That's an excellent. Okay, this is my prediction. I think she's going to take the job. Castle's going to break up with her, and the season finale is going to be this big old dramatic thing because, you know, they broke up and she's gone. And then by the time season 6 comes back, then she'll come back, and then the two of them will kind of have to
We'll see, like, where that
They
goes.
have to kind of start back over.
Here's my other thing, though, why I don't think she'll like the job is because it seems like they go off the books, you know? They don't do things by protocol. They just do what they want, go where they want, act how they want. And she's very much about, you know, we even saw this episode. I don't have, you know, a warrant to go on this private property. And unless Castle was there, she wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I think in this position, they kind of just do what they want. And I don't know if she's like that. I think she really believes in the rights of the people. She's more of a people person than a government person. Because even like the Big Brother thing that Detective Ryan was saying, you know, the face recognition, he's like, it's like Big Brother.
Yeah.
And that's what the Attorney General has them doing. She's basically going to be, you know,
I thought the face recognition, I thought that technology, that device,
creeps me out.
I thought it was cool.
It's cool. All this stuff is cool. I mean, the drones are
All
cool.
this high technology.
It's cool, but then you do think, like Warburg was saying, you know, first they're just doing it. He wrote surveillance, fine.
Yeah.
You know, then they're doing something else. He said, and then there's armed ones, and then people die, like Tanner died.
Yeah.
You know, and so you think of, yeah, there's surveillance, but then they can follow your every move.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with both of y'all about what's going to happen with Beckett overall, but at the same time, I just think that the job is going to isolate her so much that she's really going to be depressed, and she's going to come back in the 6th season.
Yeah, because her friends are at that precinct. Her family's in New York. I mean, everything's there.
And I think it's really going to drive like a wedge between her and Castle for season 6.
Well, we shall see. Before we get out of here, let's tell everyone where you could be reached on social media.
Yes, you can find me, Paige Sullivan, on Twitter and Instagram at Paige Sull, and you can find me at my website, perfectpage.com.
And you can find me at Larice Shamar on Twitter and Instagram, True Peoples, and also check out TruePeoplesMedia.com.
And you can find me at Bamm Ericsen on Twitter and Instagram. Well, we want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Castle, Season 5, Episode 23, titled The Human Factor, here on AfterBuzz TV. Next week will be the season finale. We look forward to it, and we want to thank you guys for watching. See you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.